Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. It's been some time since you last saw me. It's been 3 weeks because there was various stuff going on, stresses with work, and so I was just crashing of an evening and just doing things like watching Grey's Anatomy and such as that, and getting distracted by other things. And then last Sunday, when I was going to be publishing my review of The Round Tower, my dad was admitted to hospital. I put a community post out to say I wouldn't be uploading that day, and thank you so much for all the messages. Hoping that my dad is well. He's doing good. He needs an operation, but we're waiting to find out when that's going to be happening. But right now he's at home, he's okay. And yeah, thank you all so much for your patience. And whilst my dad has been ill, I've been reading the next book after The Round Tower. So instead of one review, I'm here to give you two. So given at this by the same author and a set, well, not exactly the same time, but within 2 decades of each other, I thought, let's just do two reviews together. I've never done this before. Let's go for it. So I'm here to talk about The Round Tower and The Man Who Cried by Catherine Cookson. So given that The Round Tower was the first one I read, this is the first one I'm going to talk about. So I've actually, just to make sure that I don't muddle up between the two books, because I've never done this before, I've written myself some notes. So yes, so if I keep glancing this way, it's because I'm just double checking my notes that what I'm about to say is actually appropriate for the book I'm talking about. So let's talk about The Round Tower. So The Round Tower, what is it about? It is set in the late 50s going into the 60s. And at the time, just so that you're aware, this book was published in 1968. So for the time that it was published, it was a contemporary book. It wasn't a historical related book like her other ones that I have talked about and reviewed on this channel. And it follows a story of Vanessa and Angus. I was just about to say Abel then. I was like, no, that's The Man Who Cried. So there we go. Straight away, I nearly got the name wrong. So late 50s, early 60s, Vanessa, she's 16 years old. She's from a very wealthy family, kind of the family who owns everything in the area where she and her family live. And she has been brought up in like a very, Catholic upbringing, and she's taught at school by nuns. So it's very religious kind of based family, but she is so intrigued by things, and she's very beautiful, but she's also sexually curious. I'm not saying that she goes out and she wants to have sex with loads of people or anything like that, no, but the fact that she gets told, well, that's something you shouldn't look at and everything, she goes, well, why shouldn't I? She has that curiosity about herself. And through the course of events, I'm not going to say exactly what they are, she falls pregnant, and her family find out and go absolutely apeshit at her. And of course, they decide straight away that the father must be this guy called Angus. Angus is the son of the maid to Vanessa's family. So they're connected, but they're not connected at the same time. He's not the father, nothing to do with that, but her family, are very much, well, it must be you. It must be that terrible guy, Angus. And basically kind of forces them to get married. Vanessa and Angus are like, what the fuck? But then Vanessa realizes that by doing that, she's able to have some kind of like freedom and is able to break away and do what she wants to do. And it really annoys her family that she decides to marry Angus, and because a man who is so beneath her. But they kind of like force it on her at the same time. It's very weird, their rationale about it. And so this follows their life. The thing about Angus is that he he's complete polar opposite. He's had a very, like, poor upbringing. He's the lower status society in their area, but he's a diamond in the rough. He has such a strong work ethic, and he decides that he is going to prove his worth to Vanessa's family and to everyone else, and sets off on this like mission to develop his skills, which are engineering based, and make something of himself. And it's about this couple who have been sort of thrown together, and what they learn from each other, the struggles that they come across and such. But also it has a very, very interesting social commentary, because, as mentioned, this was published in 1968. In 1967, so only a year before, abortion laws changed in the UK. And so, of course, because Catherine Cookson very much, she does like to have social commentary where possible. And the fact that she had this story where it was contemporary for the time, she decided to incorporate these abortion law changes and such into her story, but obviously at the late 50s. And so she has abortion, child loss in this book, along with other elements that she has used in other books. Some very nasty things, I will say that. So I want to be just to be aware that the Round Tower, even though in comparison to other books that she has written, is not as graphic, it does follow some areas of life and events and such which some people may have difficulty reading. So yeah, it's not as bad as other books of hers I have read, and by that I mean books where they're set in like Victorian era kind of ones. It's not as harsh and in your face as that, but it's still there. So I just wanted to let you know, if you do pick up this book, you might read some things that might make you uncomfortable. Overall, not a bad book, I have to say. I did though struggle with some elements, and it's not necessarily big events that happen. It's things such as Angus at times. I totally get that he's this diamond in the rough, and we follow him through and the things that he learns and such, but sometimes I kind of didn't like him as a character. Sometimes it just felt a bit, he's in this part because they've been shoved together and they have to be there, kind of thing. But then you could say that's the whole point of the piece, isn't it? That polar opposites and such, that finding that balance, and for a while they're not going to have that balance and such. But in order for me to follow, I've talked about this a lot on my channel, in order for me to follow someone's journey and want to follow their journey, I feel like I need to connect with them. And sometimes with Angus, I really didn't. It was just like, oh, okay, right, we're doing this. But I will say, Angus, when shit hits the fan, and even triggered by him or triggered by someone else, he's there to deal with shit. He's a good guy. He is a good guy. It's just, sometimes he does make the odd mistake, and that is completely understandable for anyone, especially when we're following them from like teenagers, young adult, into the next decade of adulthood and such. It very much felt like what Catherine's works tend to do, where our protagonist is, or protagonists in this case, because it's Vanessa and Angus, are the working class champion. Yes, Vanessa, she came from wealth, but as soon as, with her pregnancy when she is 16, that is just ripped away from her, and she has to start from the ground upwards. It kind of, for that going from wealth and starting off from the ground upwards, very much puts me in mind of The Glass Virgin, which I previously read like a month ago, I think now, on this channel. And yeah, so it puts me in mind of that. But also other ones like A Dinner of Herbs with our guys going from the bottom upwards to be able to have security for their family. So she's very much dealing with things that she tends to deal with in her books, but by having it as a more contemporary setting, it does feel different for me. It sounds weird, I know. It's just that so many of her books are historical 1800s settings. So to then have this shift to contemporary, which for us now in this modern age is technically historical, but this was contemporary for the time. It feels like she is doing she's doing this shift, but you know that she's doing it for a purpose. And I really, really respect her for bringing in elements such as abortion into her book. So, yeah, I say bravo to Catherine for having written this book. I really do. As mentioned, I struggled sometimes with characters, with trying to connect with them. So that's why I felt a bit downer on this one, but for the events and the things that happen and the development of characters over time and everything, it's not a bad book whatsoever. As mentioned, there will be some things in there that some people find uncomfortable, and at the very, 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 very beginning, we have teenagers and grown men watching Vanessa and her friends leave school in their school uniform, their short skirts and that, and catcalling or wolf whistling them. And it's like, dude, you're grown men. Just, ew. Just, that's gross. But it happens. And the fact that Catherine was writing that is fantastic, because she's showing this stuff happens. And especially thinking back to books where she has them in a more historical setting of Victorian times and prior, those elements of like catcalling and such aren't there. There might be like the occasional thing of, say, I don't know, a character is, a female character, well-dressed, walking through a London street, and someone who is of a lower class might, look around and smile at her or maybe say a remark, but that's it. That's all it is. So to have it picked up, put in a contemporary setting, and have it be grown men who are sexualizing a 16-year-old girl as she walks home from school, it's like that's social commentary right there. And it's important that is put in books and such to show that these things happen. So I approve of her having done that and run the risk of doing things like that. I just kind of feel like she always was a champion for women's rights and working class people, but especially to point out that even if you are from a higher class, terrible shit can still happen to you. And it's easy, you could say, for her previous books to go, well, that's a Victorian setting. That was that time. That was that society. And she's going, no, here's a story of this society. And this is happening right now to our young daughters, nieces, young women throughout our country. This is happening to them. So shame on you. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of her for writing this one, I have to say. So thank you, Catherine, for writing this book. What was I going to say? Oh, no, I've covered that. My eyes fell on a note and I was like, what does that say? No, I've already covered that. The whole, the prejudices that they face and, Angus's need to prove his worth. Why does he need to prove it? That's followed throughout this book, and it has a really it has a really beautiful ending of optimism. And also in the 60s, as you can imagine, it was a time of revolution, that there was an awakening of younger generations of they didn't have to do the things that their parents did. They had this new sense of freedom and where that could take them. And I love the fact that the ending, you have that feeling of freedom really, really boldly. And it's just going, so what's come next in the next decade? Let's see. And it's just, it ends in a really beautiful, optimistic note. So yeah, I have to say, I enjoyed The Round Tower. So my usual 3 questions. Would I read this again? I think I would. Yeah. I now thinking over all of the different parts and the things that it covers, I think it's fair to say that it is a really decent book for out of Catherine's collection. Is it? I think I would put it probably about 5th place. I think in the top of my mind of the Catherine Cookson books that I've read so far, I think I would have to do that, because my favourites are Dinner of Herbs, The Girl, and The Glass Virgin. But I also enjoyed other books of hers that I've read so far. So I kind of feel like possibly that there's 1 or 2 above The Round Tower, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad book or it's a lesser book. It just, yeah, it's coming up close near my top 3, but it's not top 3 overall. But yeah, I think I would read it again and see, maybe give it a year or so and see how I feel. But it's that thing that sometimes when you go back to books after a period of time, you see things differently because your experiences have changed and such in life. So maybe that will happen with this. I don't know. But anyway, that was a long-winded way of saying yes. So would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, I would, but I would flag that there may be some things in this that might make you feel a bit uncomfortable. So yeah, just be aware of that. And would I read any more Catherine's work? Well, yes, obviously, because I've got a load of her books and I've enjoyed going through them. Okay, so that was The Round Tower. Now let's talk about The Man Who Cried. So this one was published in the 1970s. I think it was 79. Let me just absolutely double check that. Yes, 1979. So like 10 years after The Round Tower. And this is set in 1931 to 1941. So we've got a 10-year period. And this one, I have to say, it's quite funny. When I reviewed the drama, I forgot to mention the drama for The Round Tower. I'll talk about that later. When I watched the drama, I didn't actually enjoy The Man Who Cried too much. It was really, really low on my list. I mean, I enjoyed it, but compared to others, it wasn't great. It just felt a bit, okay, right, okay. But then I read the book. And the book kind of made me see things differently. So what is this about? So this is about a man called Abel, who's I nearly called Angus Abel before, so I'm glad I had my notes to be able to tell that. And Abel is married very unhappily. His wife is abusive and he just doesn't have any kind of sense of love in his house, apart from the love for his young son. And he has, it's revealed rightly in the book that he has had an affair in order to feel some kind of love from a woman, and his wife has found out and she is going fucking ballistic. It begins with a jug being thrown at his head and it nearly shatters in his face. It's like, whoa, that is an opening, Catherine. Nice choice there. for an opening. It was quite, whoa, shocking, wide-eyed kind of thing. So in order to protect his son, and in order to ensure that he gets away from his abusive wife, and that his son is not, just that he knows that his son is safe. That's the key thing. He kidnaps his son and runs away with him to the north of England, where he is from, and decides to start a new life under a new identity. And it's all about them, these two people, this man and his son, running away and trying to find a new life and try and keep their secrets. And it's about their life in the village that they turn up in. Now, I remember even when watching the drama, I was like, is this a 1930s take on the tenant of Wildfell Hall? And in a way, it kind of is, because of that running away from an abusive relationship and taking a child to protect them, which is, ding, 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 the tenant of Wildfell Hall, basic plot. But there's something so interesting about this, that the fact that it is an abusive relationship, escaping abusive relationship from a man's point of view. She does do male protagonists, obviously, like, in the book that I've just talked about, The Round Tower, you have Angus and Vanessa, but it always tends to be that it's one of a pair. Okay. The Cinder Path, though, is the one where it is just a male protagonist, and I found that really intriguing to read, actually, after previous books, because usually it's a woman, a female protagonist. Sometimes you have a combination of a woman and a man, like in The Round Tower, and then you have ones where it's just male. But to have it be just male from the perspective of an abusive relationship where he is the one who's being abused by his wife, I found that really intriguing. And I have to say, the book is far better than the drama. I'm going to say that. Just simply because even though the drama does a good job of telling this story and allows you to understand things, I felt more compassion and drawn into Abel as a character by reading his story than watching it. So I don't necessarily think that's a negative on the creators of the drama whatsoever. It just, I don't know if it's something to do with the time in which the drama was made, that was what they were willing to do and to risk and to show, but so it felt like, to me, that the drama didn't go deep enough. And so I didn't get that connection to Abel, but I really felt the connection through the course of the book. Now, as mentioned, this one, because it covers things such as domestic abuse, kidnapping of a child, etc., there are some things that are that might make people feel uncomfortable. Again, Catherine was never afraid, I think, to make people feel uncomfortable about her characters, about her world building, etc. But she was always doing it to make a point. And I love the fact that she talks about the fact that men suffer emotions just like women do. And the fact that we have the title, The Man Who Cried, we witness Abel going through all of these complex emotions and trying to hide this secret and trying to raise his son as a good man and to get him away from witnessing abuse in order to make sure his son doesn't become like his mother, but also isn't scarred by what he saw. Abel is a good man. He just got caught up in the wrong situation. Yeah, it's wonderful that Catherine is giving a male protagonist the space to breathe. I mean, even when you first start reading it, when this argument is going on and this abuse is happening, it's so, the air like feels that you can't breathe. It's just so wham. That's okay. That was probably a concerning word to use, given that I referred to the fact that it begins with a jug nearly smashing into his head. But you know what I mean? It's so full on. You feel like you can't catch breath, and then when they go, suddenly you feel your lungs just fill with air, and it just feels like you can breathe again. And so I really like the fact that Catherine used that tension so well to convey what Abel is going through and his struggle to just find peace and happiness. Bravo for her for doing that from the male perspective. I found it really interesting. The pace of the story and the events of the story, I think are well balanced. I like that there are so many different types of women in this book. I know types of women is a bit of a weird phrase to say, but what I mean is different complexities of female characters. Because as I said, we've had his abusive wife. We have a good woman who he meets when he goes up north. We have got his sister-in-law, who's okay. I don't, because it's an awkward thing. That it basically, Abel kind of feels like he married the wrong sister. Let's put it that way. So the face pulling was just like, yeah, that's another level of awkwardness to deal with. But yeah, all of the women have their own strengths and weaknesses. They have their own prominence, but I love the fact, that she's just taken something that for many stories throughout time by other authors and even by herself, where she has done something like this, where she has put it from the female perspective and now she's flipped it. And so showing that women can do wrong, women can be as bold and blunt and dark as male characters before. I find it a really interesting switch up that she has done in order to shine the light on. Sorry, my phone just buzzed. No, it's just a message. To shine the light on men being abused and the complexities of women from a darker angle. I found that really, really interesting. So I honestly feel like, even though the dramatization follows the book, tells a story, it's well acted and such, I kind of feel like they didn't go deep enough for me. But then it could be, as mentioned, because of when it was made in the 80s, that it just was deemed not appropriate to put that kind of stuff on TV. So yeah, that's what I think. It just, I find it, I mean, the fact that the back of the book has this as the beginning of the description His father put his arms around him, and the boy hugged his face to his own. And as his father's tears and blood spread over him, there opened in him an awareness of anguish and compassion. Like, and this is a little boy. This is a little boy who she's talking about right there, and that is a powerful sentence that is put at the beginning of the description of this book. And so I think this book overall has a really strong power to it, that the drama just deflated, which is so sad. But I really honestly feel like this is one of her, well, not hidden gems, but in a way hidden, because as I said, you know, the drama doesn't really go that far deep for me. So it was hidden to me until I read the book. So I think this is a powerhouse of a book about domestic abuse, where the abuse is towards a male character and the struggles of parenthood and just wanting to be free and be able to breathe. I found that just very compelling, and it was beautifully written. So those are my thoughts on The Man Who Cried. So now my questions for this: would I read this again? Yes, I would. I think I might have to take a bit of time before I go back to this one, just because, you know, because it's so bold and everything, it just kind of feels like I need like a little break before I go back to it. But I think I definitely would read The Man Who Cried again. Would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, I would, but would flag again that this covers domestic abuse and such, which some people might find a bit uncomfortable to read. But yes, I would definitely recommend it. Would I read any more of Catherine's book? Well, yes, of course, because I've got a load of other books. So there we go. That's my bumper edition reviews of The Round Tower and The Man Who Cried by Catherine Cookson. Have you read these books? Oh, no, wait, I haven't talked about The Round Tower drama. The Round Tower drama, I think I had pretty high on my ranking. I think I might have had it about, I don't know, a third from the top or something. I enjoyed that drama. I think that one was well done, better than The Man Who Cried for sure. It tells the story well. I think it's well put together. It does make Angus, I think, more likable compared to the book, because as I said, you know, like I struggled sometimes with Angus, and I'm like, why are you being like that? So I think they made him, for those particular points of struggle, they made him more human in a way. It wasn't all just, I have to prove this, and I don't give a shit about anyone else. He really has a proper heart of gold, and they make sure that is reflected all the way through the drama. I like the drama of The Round Tower. If I can find trailers or clips for the two dramas for these two books, I certainly will, and put them in the description below. So if you read these books, I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments box below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely at you decide. And I'll be back with my next review, which is Meet Me at the Wedding by Georgia Toffolo. To be honest, I think this is not going to take long at all to read. It's, what, about 300 pages? Oh, no, wait, hang on. No, this is Meet Me at the Wedding. Sorry, I just realised that I was saying about next chapter of new book, and I'm like, oh, where is it? 309 pages, so it's not going to take me very long at all to get through. So I would have thought I'd be back with you in a week then to give my thoughts on Meet Me at the Wedding. So I will see you then. Bye. Ooh, sorry, on my screen something's gone wrong. Perfect way to end the video.